whether it's watching your form, getting back to the fundamentals, or really going back to square one, any of it can be really helpful for you. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Parking Lot Philosophy, the only show where today is Casual Friday. I will button this up before I go to work. So, I have not been doing a good job of journaling lately. It's something, I've talked about a lot on the podcast is journaling's really important. It's something that I think helps me a lot, helps me, think out thoughts, some would say. But it also is something that I tend to neglect. And as part of this, I just went back and watched like the first episode of the podcast recently. And it's one thing that, I don't know, it's kind of funny because I can see the progression in what we've done so far. Like I've went from someone who was almost like cautious about recording to someone who I feel like I can just press record and start. But also too, I've kind of recognized that just like, in a game of telephone, I have slowly gotten less and less accurate to what the original plot was. And that being said, I decided to write in my journal. I haven't probably for like a week. I mean, I've just been going off the cuff on some of these episodes. But I decided to write in my journal about getting back to the fundamentals. And the thing that kind of actually, sorry, I dropped my pen. The thing that got me back to thinking about this and really going back and watching my podcast again was Deadlock. Now, I'm a big gamer. Deadlock is it's like in beta. It's a MOBA shooter by Valve. So kind of a fun deal, great game. I've spent a lot of hours in it. That being said, I am not the greatest player. However, one thing I've started to recognize is that when I focus on the fundamentals, like focusing on my positioning in the game, watching how much money I have, all of these different things, I win more frequently. And that got me thinking about the podcast, and that got me thinking about how when I have episodes that I really enjoy, like the first episode, for instance, it's because I use my journal as almost like a pre-scripting tool. It's not like these are scripted, but it's an opportunity for me to think about what I want to talk about ahead of time. And in a way, too, it actually makes me come up with way more than just that one journal entry, for instance. So, I journaled specifically about the fundamentals, but I also was journaling about how I want to grow more. I feel like I've stunted a little bit. And I think that's partially because I'm not reflecting on what I've been doing, because I haven't been journaling. I haven't been looking back. And so it's one of those things where I was like, let's write down and kind of think a little bit further about what I want to do. The other part, I'm looking at the journal. We're doing the exact thing. We practice what we preach on this podcast. The other thing that kind of goes in with this too is systems. And I think this is something that I need to read more into. Systems are such an important part of being productive. I have a lot of systems at work, I would say, that help me kind of be productive and make things more efficient. But in my life, in my personal life, I do not have a lot of systems. And that's something that I've really been thinking about. How can I make systems that work for me instead of making me work more? And there's kind of two systems that I believe are out there. This podcast, my journaling, that is an active system. I have to be an active participant in this system for it to actually make a difference and actually work. Whereas there's also passive systems, which a great example is habits. Habits are a really effective way to have a passive system that you can actually work through without even really, putting in much effort. These two systems are extremely helpful for being productive. I was thinking, the Deadlock example, that's an active system. When I say, focus on the fundamentals, I pay attention to all these different aspects, that is me actively engaging in a practice, in a system. But as I thought about it more, I kind of recognized that these passive systems, as I call them, the habits, those are just systems that you've actually ingrained into your life more. And so it goes from you have to be an active participant to all of a sudden this stuff is second nature to you. And that's really where I'm trying to get to. Not necessarily just um, with journaling. I think journaling is obviously the basis for this, but just everything I do in general. I think there's so much time that we spend almost, I hate to say it's a waste. I don't think any time you spend is a waste, because you did something for some reason or another. It's tough if you constantly regret the time that you spent on things. Um, but I do think there's more efficient ways to spend time. And so that's really what I've been trying to attain lately, because I feel like I don't have as much time. I talked at this point, it feels like ages ago, but a few episodes ago about how I need better sleep. I need to sleep better. Um, and that's one thing I've been working towards. And I actually had, I don't know if I mentioned this. I went to the doctor. So I had like an annual checkup, and I mentioned that I want to kind of fix my sleep schedule. And so I've been working towards fixing my sleep schedule. I don't take anything to sleep. I actually find I go to sleep really easily. It's just I have to like, kind of force myself to actually go. And I've went from my average sleep being probably 6 hours to all of a sudden now I'm getting closer to like 7, and then hopefully soon I'll go from 7 to 8. Because especially on the weekends, I have been actually sleeping like a proper 8. But during the week, it's closer to like 7 to 7:30, or 7.5 hours. But all of that being said, this is something that I'm actively participating in, trying to build a habit for, and trying to get time back. Or sorry, excuse me. And because of that, I lose some of my time because I spend more time sleeping. But right now, I'm trying to build some of these habits and things to actually get some time back. Because I'd argue the number one thing I feel like, having started trying to fix my sleep schedule and do more, is that it's not that I'm feeling like I'm not getting enough done, or it's not that I'm feeling like there's so much more to do. It's just that I'm having this feeling of like, oh wow, the day's already over. Like that's kind of crazy. And that is one step away from saying I didn't get enough done. So I'm in a better headspace, I'd argue, but it is one of those things that's like very, I don't know, very interesting, very tough. And it's something that I will continue to work towards. But point of this episode, we got a little bit off topic with the tired. Point of this episode is get back to your fundamentals. If you're working out and you slowly have worse and worse posture, you are going to A, end up hurting yourself, but B, not have as effective of a workout. Same thing, if you're communicating with other people and you're not thinking about the fundamentals of communication, making sure everyone is in the communication, you miss someone on that email forward, that person's not gonna, they're not gonna know. That's gonna completely ruin your fundamentals. So keeping an eye on your fundamentals, the things that make everything tick, is the most important thing you can do, because that is really your base. That is your building block to make the pyramid actually work. And the more I think about it, the more we talk, the more I think about these things. This is actually so applicable for work in a way that like I had not even thought of when I wrote in my journal. I am working on a decent sized report right now, trying to get things ready for that. And I was really like worried about all this like goofy stuff at first. And then I was like, you know what? I'm just going to throw things into the slides. Started throwing them into the slides, and oh my God, things moved so quickly. And I think it's because it was the fundamentals. I just got something on the page, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh shit, here's this, here's that, boom, check mark. So I ended up going from, I had the information for 2 slides. It's a pretty information heavy deck. But I had information for 2 different slides, and then I quadrupled it. I mean, I went from 2 to 4, and then 4. I mean, I guess it's I thriced it. I tripled it. That's, maybe I need to go back to vocab lessons. That's a fundamental. Anyway, I went from 2 slides to 6. I've got a few more like in the pipeline. But that's the thing, is like I really was struggling to get this information, because We're making a strategic plan with it. We're doing the slides with it. I'm trying to get this deck out. And it's one of the things where I was really struggling with it. And then honestly, just putting something out there ended up making some really great work. And so that's kind of the thing. If you can get the fundamentals down, whether it be in work, whether it be in life, whether it be, even just in a video game, which is the base example for this, you will actually have a really great time. It'll make things so much easier. And even hey, last example we'll do. Think of this podcast. I wrote in my journal. I started yapping. And you know what? To be 100% honest, I think this was a great episode. I think this was, at least for me, a very fun episode. And I think that all has to do with fundamentals. So leave comments, like the podcast or whatever. The reason I say those things is because I want to do a Q&A at a point when we get to more episodes and things. So leave questions for me to answer, or thoughts you've been having or anything like that. But thank you for watching. Bye for now.